haven't played this in... Ooh. Oh, man. I can't even remember the last time I played. When did I last play Sparking Zero? I think the last time I played Sparking Zero was when I last streamed it, which was like almost 2 months ago. Wait a minute, when did Sparking Zero come out? Sparking Zero came out in October, right? I think Sparking Zero. God, type in when somebody in the chat type in when Sparking Zero came out, because now we're talking about Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. And we're talking about the fall of Sparking Zero. Yes, for those of y'all wondering, this game fell off. Nobody's talking about it on Twitter like that anymore, unless you're like in a Sparking Zero chat like I am. Yeah, because I subscribe to a Dragon Ball Sparking Zero like channel on Twitter, so I get some Sparking Zero stuff from time to time. But Sparking Zero fell off. We fell off. We took a nosedive. It came out October 7th. That was the pre-release. That was the pre-ordered, the digital pre-ordered version, right? Yeah, that was the digital pre-ordered version. It came out on the 7th because its real date was October 10th, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Right. Okay. I haven't played this game. I streamed it on October 7th. I streamed it the day of, and it got a really long stream the day of. And I want to say, when did I stop playing this? I want to say I stopped playing this around mid-November? Probably mid-November? Mid-November. I think mid-November is when I stopped playing this. I haven't played this game since mid to late November. Haven't touched it. A Dragon Ball game. A Budokai Tenkaichi game for no less. Dragon Ball. Like, bruh. I haven't picked up this game in like mid to late November. If you want to know when I last played this, it was more than... I think there's a way to turn on your PS5 and check when you last played the game. I haven't touched this game since mid to late November. Didn't touch it at all in December. It did not see the light of day in December. Didn't touch it. Didn't play with it at all. Not even just me. Nobody's posting it on Twitter anymore. Motherfucker, people aren't even playing it on YouTube. I don't even see anything about it on YouTube anymore. I'm not seeing Rhyme Style go, "What's up, Super Saiyan?" You wanna know what Rhyme Style's doing? He's playing Yu-Gi-Oh!
What the hell?
But he's playing Yu-Gi-Oh! He's playing Yu-Gi-Oh! With his boys! He don't give a shit about no Dragon Ball Sparking Zero right now. Look, the freaking thing says 2 idiots playing Yu-Gi-Oh! But he's not even... Maximilian, dude's not playing no damn... The only information I get on Sparking Zero is a very old YouTuber by the name of Omega 2040. For those of y'all, if you know, you know. Omega 2040 is the one that breaks down every last one of the moves, and he's not playing it competitively. Now, dude's playing it. Dude's just literally talking about the moves, and then he'll probably do a review when it's all over, and then we'll never hear some information from him again. I ain't getting it unless Chi-Chi or Vidro are in the game. Yeah. Like, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Orion Sword openly said, "I ain't getting it until those characters are playable." Like, bro. And it's going to get to a point where I guarantee you, here's what's going to happen. Sparking Zero is going to wind up with some DLC, right? Like, Sparking Zero is going to wind up with DLC. People are going to pick it up for all of about 2 weeks and then drop it all over again. And then it'll be picked up again for 2 weeks once it gets more DLC and then dropped again. That's literally how it's going to go. But we got to go back a little bit. We got to rewind the clock and ask ourselves, why did this happen? Why did one of the most anticipated Dragon Ball games flop this hard? And I work at a game store. Well, that's one of my jobs. I have 2 jobs. I work at a game store. If you want context, here's how video games go in terms of distribution. You're about to get a little inside scoop on how it goes. When it comes to newly released video games, especially like hot video games, if it's newly released and it's getting a lot of like traffic, like that means a lot of people are pre-ordering it before it even comes out, we'll get it. Sparking Zero got a lot of pre-orders. Good. That's good. So you're probably thinking, what's the problem? Well, it got a lot of pre-orders, but not a lot of sales afterwards. Yeah. A bunch of people pre-ordered this game to the point where we were ended up giving all the people who pre-ordered the games, we gave them the Dragon Ball Sparking Zero games. Now, what happens after a pre-release? Well, when a pre-release happens and pre-orders, once people get their games and people end up picking up their pre-ordered games, we're supposed to get a shipment of more copies of that game. This happens for Call of Duty. This happens for NBA 2K25. This happened for Madden 25. This happened for College Football 25. It happened for FIFA, or aka EAFC 2025. They had to change the name for legal purposes for some reason. This happened for a lot of non-anime games, but Dragon Ball Sparking Zero was in the line of games that got pre-ordered a lot, almost up to the point, if not more, than Call of Duty Black Ops 2, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, right? So, loads of games coming in. Now, check this out. After the pre-order copies got collected, we ended up getting our regular copies. So we got more Call of Duty, more Madden, more NBA 2K, more of those games. We got all of those games back in. But no copies of Sparking Zero. We didn't get any more copies of Sparking Zero. After Sparking Zero sold, we stopped selling Sparking Zero. Why? Why is that? Well, I can tell you why. The demand wasn't there. Everybody who wanted the game got the game. But everybody who demanded the game, there were no more demands for Sparking Zero. After Sparking Zero got sold out during October, nobody made requests for it. Now, to give context, Call of Duty came out around the same time. October, I want to say, same month. I'm thinking October 25th, around like a little bit later. Call of Duty got released like on the 28th, I think. It still gets copies brought into our store today. And the reason that's the case is because overall, even though Sparking Zero got more pre-orders, Call of Duty got more sales. Now, why is that? Because everybody who wanted Sparking Zero got Sparking Zero. Everybody who wanted Call of Duty pre-ordered Call of Duty, but still kept buying Call of Duty. People kept coming to the store requesting Call of Duty. People kept going in buying copies of Call of Duty. So overall, Sparking Zero got more copies pre-ordered across several different states. So countrywide, it got more pre-orders. But those were all across scattered parts of the stores. Call of Duty got pre-orders everywhere, but just got less pre-orders. That's all. So when people bought Call of Duty, they kept coming back to the stores. Whereas with Sparking Zero, everybody who wanted the game got the game already. And most people ordered it or pre-ordered it online. So most of those pre-orders are online pre-orders. Nobody even requested it from game stores. Well, if it's not getting requested from game stores, then it's not getting bought at game stores. Sparking Zero sold most of its pre-ordered copies online. That means most of the people who ended up getting them were getting them from Amazon. They were getting them from Funimation, because Funimation for some reason was selling them. They were getting them from not Funimation. They were getting them from Bandai. Yeah, from Bandai Namco's store. Yeah, they were buying them from Bandai Namco's store. They were buying them from digital releases on the PlayStation itself. Hell, I got my copy on the digital release, and I didn't even want my damn copy on the digital release. The only reason I got my copy on digital release was because when I pre-ordered the damn copy on Amazon, guess what happened? They said it wouldn't come until a week later. And the only reason that was the case was because Dragon Ball Sparking Zero had the most pre-order traffic. So many people pre-ordered that game at once that the shipment for that game in October was crazy. So people had to cancel their pre-orders because they wanted it digitally, because that was the only way it was going to come on time. So even from get-go, we haven't even talked about the game yet, but the shipment is terrible. People could just go to the store and get Call of Duty and freaking and Madden and 2K. They could get those at the store. And people kept going to the store to get those games. People who pre-ordered Sparking Zero pre-ordered them digitally, online, or through Amazon, hoping that they would get their delivery, only for the game to be so pre-ordered in so many copies. And then they screwed themselves by making multiple editions. Call of Duty, when you pre-order it, or Madden, you only get about 1 to 2 editions. Call of Duty, you get a pre-order edition, which comes with a bunch of stuff in a steelbook case. Madden and 2K, you get 2 versions. A regular version and a deluxe edition that has a little bit more stuff in it, which is essentially the DLC it's going to have for the most part. And then some later on updates based on what's happening. Sparking Zero didn't release not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 versions of this game. The standard edition, the deluxe edition, the standard edition, the deluxe edition, the ultimate edition, and the collector's edition. Well, guess who the hardcore fans did? The hardcore fans ordered a bunch of the collector's editions, which came with the Steelbook, the Broly versus Ultra Instinct Goku figurines that fight each other. Then you got your Ultimate Edition, which came with a bunch of crap, plus the Steelbook and all of that. Then you finally had all the DLC that was supposed to come with it, plus the pre-order bonuses for the characters that were supposed to come out before they were released officially. And you were supposed to get Daima Goku for pre-order. And then after that, there's the Ultimate Edition, which comes with all that crap, but it comes with it digitally. Then you get your Standard Edition. Well, at this point, the sellout rate for all of those editions, combined with the fact that it took forever for shipping to come for multiple editions of the game, this game costs more to pre-order and get on time than it costs for somebody to just pop $5 on Call of Duty and just get it day one. It was ridiculous. And at least Call of Duty gave you a beta version to play beforehand. This was a mess. Marketing-wise, this was a disaster. We haven't even talked about the game yet. This was horrific. There was no way in hell this was going to work out. And at this point, a lot of the people that were pre-ordering this stuff, most of these people, I guarantee you, most of these, here's how it was broken down at this point. Sparking Zero is a sequel to a game that came out. Let me pull it up because I want to be numerically accurate. And I'll use the American release date, not the Japanese, because we're talking about this. So Dragon Ball Z it came out 3 days before my birthday. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3, aka Sparking Neo, came out in 2007 on November 13th, 3 days before my birthday, by the way. Well, this game came out in 2024, so we're talking a good 17 years ago, bruh. 17 years ago. So we're talking about a sequel to a game that came out 17 years ago. I'm not going to count Raging Blast in any of this, even though Raging Blast is definitely the sequels. But 17 years is a lot of time. 17 years. 17 years. For context, I'm 32 years old. That means at the time that this game came out, and this game came out 3 days before my birthday, so it definitely was my birthday gift. That means this game came out when I was like 14 years old. I'm counting 2000, the year that it came out. So I was like 14, turning 15. I was like 14 turning 15 at this point. So I was literally in high school when this game came out. And I'm a 32-year-old man. 17 years, that means that the people that are looking into getting this game for a newly released console, by the way. Well, not newly released, but the PS5 was finally starting to get a library at this point. PS5 starting to get a library. We're talking PS5, Xbox Series X, and Steam at this point. By this point, we're talking about new generation. Dude, almost 2 decades of gamers have passed at this point. That's 2 decades. That's 2 decades. That's 2 decades. Do you think the gaming market's going to be the same 2 decades from now? Say what you want about Call of Duty, but Call of Duty comes out every year with sub-games in between it. So the community was able to stay consistent. Pokemon, for as much crap as you want to give it, still has its fans intact because we know when a new Pokemon game comes out, it's not that far away from the old Pokemon game that came out before. They were able to maintain a consistent stride. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is living off the nostalgia of 2 decades worth of video gaming. That means you have to make sure that your fan base was loyal from 17 years ago, hoping that they would pre-order something specifically then after 2 decades and hope that they would remain faithful. Now, granted, the people that played Tenkaichi 3 were kids and grew up and became adults, which means they have money. I'll give you that. That's perfectly fine, which means they are able to buy the game. But they made one tiny mistake that they didn't think about. One teensy-weensy thing. They're adults. That means they have jobs. You think they're sitting around here playing that game religiously like they did when they were kids? When we were kids and we got home from school, that was literally all we could do during the summertime. And also, this game came out on November 13th, the Tenkaichi 3. Tenkaichi 3 came out on November 13th, which means Thanksgiving was right around the corner. That's multiple times to play the game. And then right after that was Christmas break. For a lot of kids, this was their Christmas gift during Christmas break. Sparking Zero came out in freaking October, which is the most... It works for the video game holiday season, but it is still one of the most awkward moments, especially nowadays. Because when it came out in October, like I said before, everybody pre-ordered the game. Well, because everybody pre-ordered the game, do you think this was going to wind up under somebody's Christmas tree? Hell no! Unless somebody bought this game, waited it out for about 2.5 months for Christmas to show up, and then finally put it under the Christmas tree. Bro, the game's been out for 2.5 months at this point. There's no way. There's no way in hell that was gonna happen. The game had been released at this point. So at this point, freaking Dragon Ball Sparking Zero was way too ahead of the curve. It should have released in November. If it had released in November, then yes, it could have been a potential Black Friday / Christmas seller. And then it would have had more stopping power. Obviously, Japan's holiday marketing doesn't work that way, but still. You stack that on top of the fact that most of the people pre-ordered it. Then you got scalpers who probably bought the collector's edition so they could resell it at a higher price. Then you stack that on top of the fact that it didn't even get its first major patch until December. Yeah, 2 months after the fact. So it finally got patched up at this point. And the only reason it had to patch was because it was a broken mess. Now we can talk about the gameplay. For Christ's sakes, its first major online, well, not online, but its first major international tournament was a disaster. Because the game was a broken mess. And people kept thinking this was going to be Evo. And that's the other biggest problem. People approached Dragon Ball Sparking Zero as if they were competitive gamers. Because I can argue that today's gamers are a lot more competitive than the gamers back in the early 2000s. The early to mid 2000s, most people played casually with some competitive rounds here and there because we didn't have access to crazy efficient online. If you had online in the PlayStation 2 days, it was more than likely dial-up online, which wasn't very efficient. And if you just so happen to get wireless internet or Wi-Fi or whatever, you definitely weren't putting it on Dragon Ball Z unless it was the Wii. Because that was the only time Budokai Tenkaichi was playable online. And even then, that was the Wii, the Nintendo Wii. It wasn't dangerously competitive, and Nintendo's online wasn't dangerously good. It was laggy as all hell. So even when Dragon Ball Z had online, it was on something, it wasn't even on the Xbox or like the PlayStation 3 or anything. It was on the least efficient system for the job. But online was mostly just added as a fun feature that you can go on occasion. It wasn't meant to be taken seriously. For Christ's sakes, in order to use a lot of the moves in Budokai Tenkaichi 3 on the Wii, you had to use hand motions. Because they wanted to copy the video game. I mean, they wanted to copy the anime. Nobody was taking that seriously, and the PlayStation 2 version decided to scrap online altogether because they couldn't do it. So instead, they decided to do the, the disc fusion feature, where you can use Budokai Tenkaichi 1 and 2. If you have memory saved from either of those games, you can unlock certain modes from those games. And they decided to do it that way. But it wasn't meant to be taken seriously. It wasn't meant to have this craziness. Yeah, a couple of modders made some modded versions, but you gotta remember, those are modders. And it's a very niche, small community that was getting together going, yeah, we can make this competitive, but it's not competitive. It's nice, it's competitive within that circle, but this isn't like Super Smash Bros. Melee, which will stand the test of time with its competitive. And even then, Nintendo scrapped that into the official EVO tournaments. Like, the community took this way too damn seriously, decided to think that this was an online EVO-worthy game. It didn't win it didn't win anime fighting game. It lost that to Tekken. And that makes sense. Tekken's consistent. It's always been consistent. Say what you want about Tekken, but Tekken's been consistent and it's been Evo worthy and it's been a arcade fighter for years. Of course it's not going anywhere, and it's definitely not losing a freaking Sparking Zero. Fighters had a better chance of beating Sparking Zero in terms of that department. It's because Sparking Zero wasn't built for this. It's a game that had 180 plus characters, and its whole factor was, look how many characters we got. And it couldn't even maintain the number. It scrapped a bunch of characters just to add that new roster, and then counted all the new transformations as characters so it could bloat the roster up. And for Christ's sakes, they took out Super 17, but kept Super Baby 1. Like, what? What was the plan? What was the plan? What was the plan? Who seriously thought this was gonna work? Even after all of that, they tried to do an international tournament, and what did people do? How did people react to this? They used Dr. Gero and Android 19, abused the fact that they don't like power up traditionally, so their energy doesn't run out when they dash, and then dashed them up in the air 1,000 times. And I'm like, bro, what? They also got rid of Nova and Ice Shinran. Ice Shinran was never in the game, but I see what you're saying. They got rid of Nova. No, I know what you mean. They got rid of Nova Shinran and Sin Shinran. I think you mean Sin Shinran. Sin Shinran is the 1-star dragon. Omega Shinran is Sin Shinran when he absorbs all 7 of the Dragon Balls. Anyway, my point. The first tournament was a disaster. Because this game wasn't meant for that crap. And then freaking Yajirobe ended up getting nerfed because people got mad that he abused the Sensu Bean thing. And I'm like, Yajirobe wasn't meant for that. Yeah, this game wasn't meant for competitive. Yajirobe was supposed to be a fun little joke character that just happened to heal himself, and people thought it would be funny that he would be in the game. Just like Babidi was in the game. And General Tao, and like, it was for comedic effect. And O'Reilly, it was funny. Nobody was sitting up here developing this game with the mindset that people were going to be sweating online, freaking playing the game like, no, Nobody thought that. No one in 2006, because obviously the game came out in 2007, so I assume it was being developed in 2006. Nobody in 2006 was working with that brain. They weren't working with that mindset. They weren't thinking about any of that. They weren't developing the game under that premise. They weren't on that level. Nobody was thinking this. 2007 wasn't a time for all of that. People would play video games and go, oh man, I love the story of this game. Oh man, I love the customization. Oh, I love that you can make Goku's aura this different color because I unlocked this thing. Oh, look at all the characters I ended up unlocking. How did you unlock that character? Oh, I made Vegeta and this character fight, and if the story goes continuously, you can press R3 at any point in time. Just knock out this character first, then click R3, and then you unlock the character. Oh, how did you get this? Oh, you can do disc fusion? That's pretty cool. I entered the world tournament and got a bunch of money and unlocked this cool new skill. Nobody on earth was thinking, oh man, I gotta do some advanced tech so that I can make it to Z rank. Nobody was thinking that crap. Not anybody. But then you take 2 decades, combine it with a completely competitive set of kids that are on a completely different level, playing video games like their life depended on it, pair them up with a bunch of old nostalgia heads, mix that together, and you lose everything. And then make a tournament that flopped. And then release a game that's pretty much broken. And then make it pre-order hell. Bro, there was no way. There was no way. There was no way. This game was dead on impact. Bro, I literally just got done saying that I haven't touched this game since November. We're in January. We are in January. I haven't touched this game in 2.5 months. And it's mostly because I have no desire to play it. I don't want to do the online because this is Sparking Zero. I never wanted to play this game like my life depended on it. So I don't want to do that. The story mode I've already pretty much beat for the most part. There's like a couple of story modes I need to finish. But even then, the story mode wasn't that great to me. It was a couple of what if scenarios were interesting. But I'm not going, oh my God, I'm waiting for this. I really want to play the story, or oh my God, I want to like, there's no joy in that. I can make up some matches, but even they found a way to even make that stressful. You can make up some story matches, but it's not fun. You can do the world tournament, but the AI is ridiculous. And it's not even the fact that the AI is hard. I can beat it with enough grinding, but even still, I don't care. Can't even get new maps. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. The maps aren't even realized. We don't even get to fight at Master Roshi's house. What kind of shit is that? We don't get to fight at Master Roshi's house. We don't get to fight at HFIL. We don't get to fight in at Grandpa Gohan's little house with the mountainside where it looks a little stormy. We don't get to fight. Bro, this is Sparking Zero. You should be able to fight in all sorts of crazy places. You should be able to fight on the islands while it's storming so it looks like Resurrection F, but you don't. You should be able to fight at for Christ's sake, you should be able to fight in the Arctic where you fought Broly. Not an available spot, but it is in Tenkaichi 3. This game underperformed its predecessor. For Christ's sakes. If we go into the gameplay, the attacks don't feel like they've hit at all. They feel like you're just punching a squishy pillow that just happens to have some anime sound effect to it. The beams, I have to really listen hard to see if my beams connect, because they don't sound like they connect at all. They sound like somebody turned on a flashlight real fast and turned it off. Like the light just barely hit. Meanwhile in Tenkaichi 3 and even in Raging Blast, when energy beams hit, they made a strong crunch, like or when punches hit was, and then you can see like the impact hits. You can see the camera shake a little bit to show that damage was done. When attacks hit, freaking, say you use an ultimate attack on somebody, it doesn't really, like, only a couple of shots do it, but for the most part, it doesn't do it. Where it shows, like, the enemy getting hit and them trying to hold the blast off, but then getting swallowed up by the blast or the explosion. There is no panned shots of like a bird's eye view of the planet Earth and like a little explosion happening, like in Budokai 3 or nothing. Like, there's no... And then normally, like, the camera would shake while the Earth is going... And then, like, the camera flashes white, and then it goes back to the battlefield. But this time, the whole battlefield... You want to know what you get? You get Planet Namek blowing up. Yep, Planet Namek. And you see a couple of little red spots come up, and then it shows a flash, and then the planet is explode. Like, bro, what? That's lame. They fixed the beam struggle so not every beam struggle cracks the Earth. But even then, if it's a beam struggle, you should be showing like the camera shaking. It should be showing like the camera angle from one side where the character's struggling, and then the camera angle from the other. And then whoever wins the battle, it cuts to them and then shows them going like, let's stop. And then it shows the other character getting swallowed up by the beam. It doesn't show any of that. Certain characters, when they get grabbed, like for example, if Gohan uses his rush super, it shows him like twirling them in the air, but it shows like a lazy version of it. It doesn't show like the character getting tossed. Which, you want to know what makes it worse? Goku, if he throws Frieza, he'll grab him by the tail, and it'll show the camera getting closer to Frieza's face and then zoom out. So it's like they selectively chose when to put more effort. It feels like they cinematically chose certain spots to show more effort, and then they got lazy in others. And again, the game has 180 plus characters. Not every character is gonna be gold, but for Christ's sakes, you hyped this up. That's the problem. Bandai Namco hyped this up. They're the ones that put the promotional collector's edition and deluxe edition. They're the ones that released all these damn trailers. They're the ones that made the trailer where it was a CRT television showing Budokai Tenkaichi 3 and then going, the most anticipated Dragon Ball Z video games coming back. They're the ones that had Toonami do like a Toonami version release trailer. They're the ones that freaking gave us up-to-date information during Dragon Ball Hour. They're the ones that did all of this. This is y'all fault. You're the ones that put in this much effort to pull back the nostalgia crowd and then look confused why it's flopping like this. What the hell did you think was gonna happen? You rounded up all these old fans, then tried to ring in a bunch of new fans, made it ultimately competitive by throwing this stupid tournament, then you had the gall to make a Z-rank. Let me tell you something. So in Budokai Tenkaichi 3, there is online. But there was no rank matches. At least I don't think there were. I'll double check. Let me double check so I don't look like a fool. A competitive online where players fight against each other with their performance contributing in-game ranking system, usually through Dragon Net Battle, allowing for them to compete against other players based on skill level. So it was skill level. They had like a skill level thing, but even that wasn't like ranked. Not terribly. And again, you gotta remember, we weren't that competitive in 2007. Does that make us weaker? Nah, not really. The game wasn't meant for that crap. Motherfucker, if you went into a fight with Aurelie versus Omega Shinron, was that meant to be taken seriously? No, it was fun. That's the core element of Tenkaichi. And you're probably thinking, oh, so what, Dragon Ball just can't be competitive? No! It can be! You can have your Budokai 3s and Infinite Worlds and Burst Limits and Dragon Ball Fighters. You can have your competitive games. But we knew full well that Tenkaichi 3 was not one of them. And don't even sit there and pretend like it was. Yeah, the online community made modded versions of them that were meant to be taken competitively seriously online, but that's a small niche. That's just like the Super Smash Bros. Melee community. Melee did that, but Smash Ultimate is the current competitive, if you decide to do competitive online tournaments. Melee has its small little circle, but when you go to, like, say, SmashCon, you're not seeing everybody playing Melee. You're seeing, like, one room with, like, 5 people playing Melee. Because that's its own little small community. And yes, Melee was very competitive for its time, to the point where it passed up Smash Brothers Brawl, and 4 for that matter. But even then, it was a small circle of people. But if Tenkaichi 3 was ever considered competitive, it was within a small group of people. It wasn't worldwide. It wasn't Evo worthy. I don't know why people kept thinking that. I don't know where the consensus that people thought this was going to be. And I don't know where people thought this was going to be like the ultimate Dragon Ball game that was going to set the bar. Yeah, Sparking Zero got a lot of pre-orders based off of, like, people remembering that Budokai Tenkaichi 3 is a game they played when they were, like, 12 years old back in 2007. But what on earth made y'all think this was going to break numbers? What on earth made y'all think this was going to be the most revolutionary Dragon Ball game? What made y'all think that? I'm seriously confused as to why y'all thought that was going to be the case. And why the fact that when I said all these things way back in, like, September, August, months before it came out, we were getting trailers, everybody said I was a hater, or I just want to see this game flop, or I want to see this game fall, or I'm just a pessimist. Y'all said all of that, and then this happened. And I can tell you right now, that DLC is going to hype people up. People are going to love that DLC for all of 2 weeks, and then they're going to drop it again. And now we're getting matches where people are talking about, oh, Sparking Zero versus Xenoverse. Xenoverse, oh, you want to talk all that crap against Sparking Zero. Xenoverse wasn't that great either, blah, 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 Xenoverse. And Xenoverse still makes DLC. And Xenoverse wasn't trying to compete for that spot. Xenoverse knew what it was. Say what you want about Xenoverse. Xenoverse knew what it was. It was a character creating MMO Dragon Ball online game. And it stayed that way. And kept making DLC and had support. And its followers supported it. It did what it had to do. But it wasn't hyping itself up to be that. Xenoverse 2 gave us a couple of good trailers. And then, like, some mostly cinematic trailers based off of, like, movie characters and certain timeline coverages. And then after that, they stepped in. They stayed in their lane. They knew what the assignment was. Make it as fanficky as possible by adding Fu, and a couple of, like, timeline Mira and Toa shenanigans, mostly an homage to things. Have your OC fighting alongside Goku, and then it left it alone. It got DLC, but wasn't concerned about being this competitive craziness. It wasn't trying to aim for the Evo spot, and it definitely wasn't trying to reach out to a nostalgia crowd. It knew exactly what it wanted to do, and it did it. It wasn't even aiming to be the best Dragon Ball game. It just wanted to be a fun little Dragon Ball game where you make your own character and fight alongside your heroes and have fun. And it did that. Is it one of my favorite Dragon Ball games? Nah. But I enjoyed it for the time I played it, and it did its job. And I respect the fact that it still does DLC to this day, because it knows it's not trying to take itself seriously. It's not trying to have people play the game till their fingers fall off and sweat. And it's definitely not trying to be a game that's trying to capitalize on the fact that we played it 20 years ago. It's not trying to be any of that. It made one, then made another. It knew what it wanted. It knew its assignment. It knew what it had to do. It wasn't trying to be extra. Sparking Zero was trying its hardest to be both a nostalgic game and a competitive game at once, and it couldn't accomplish either. I still think the game's fun. For those of y'all wondering, oh, do you hate Sparking Zero now? Are you a Sparking Zero hater, Tyrone? No. I think the game's fun. For the most part, there's things I like. There's things that happen in Sparking Zero that could never happen in Budokai Tenkaichi 2 or even Raging Blast, which I honestly think Raging Blast 2 is the better game. But even those games, there's some things that Sparking Zero can do that those games can't. I can't use Fuse Zamasu in either of those games. I love Fuse Zamasu in this game. One, because he's not as hard to control as he is in Fighters. And two, because I just like his move. I like his ultimate move where he God slaps somebody and then uses lightning of absolution. And at the end of it, he goes, "It's over." Like, I love that. Fun. There's definitely I want to say this before it sounds like I'm getting too ranty and Bandai Namco were just a bunch of heartless monsters. You can definitely see that there was some love put into parts of this game. You can definitely see that there was love in it. I don't want to sit up here and sound cynical the whole way through. You can definitely tell there was some love put into the game. I'm not even going to be that guy. I can definitely see the love being put in certain spots. Having special throws, like Broly being able to have a special throw on Goku if he grabs him. Having a special throw for if Goku grabs Frieza and tosses him around. Having a special... having certain interactions that you didn't think. Like, for example, I like the fact that Dr. Wheelo talks to Dr. Gero and he's like, the infamous Dr. Gero. Let us team up as scientists. And Dr. Gero's like, "Dr. Wheelo, I thought your body was frozen." Like that's cool. I like that. That's fun. The fact that they even have that is interesting. The fact that Kid Goku calls Omega Shenron a giant lizard. The fact that, like, what was it? There was another moment that I really liked, or at least really wanted to mention. Yeah, there's little moments that work. There's little interactions and moments that go, there was definitely research done. You could definitely tell that there were workers in the department that were passionate. So I'm not going to take that away. But you can definitely feel the corporatism rubbing its nasty fingers on the shoulders of, like, nostalgia players and competitive players alike. You can definitely feel that. You can truly feel that. You can truly feel that, unfortunately, when the moment they made that trailer was the moment they cut themselves they shot themselves in the foot and cut themselves in the throat. You can definitely feel those. Why do I say that? Because the moment they released that trailer, people needed a release. People needed the character reveals. People needed, and the demand and hype was so vastly powerful, they would have been fools not to release the game in 2024. But if they had waited, say, a little bit longer and probably polished it more, put a little bit more love into it, balanced it out a little bit, maybe had some test players, then maybe, just maybe, it would have been able to stand the test of time a little bit. But it didn't. It didn't. And the reason it didn't was because you can definitely feel that they cut corners. They cut corners. They lived off hype. And they had a nostalgia boner, and they did everything they could in order to try to force this game to be something that it pretty much wasn't since 2007. But they didn't want to put the effort in. They put the love in, but they didn't put their foot in it. They put the love in it. They put the heart in it. They didn't put the soul. That was the issue. This really needed some moments to cook. And you can definitely tell some of it was like they took the lazy route. But the worst part is that games that released after this that had similar formulas did better just because they put in more effort. Y'all want to give Raging Blast 2 crap because we had a debate on Raging Blast 2 versus Sparking Zero? No. To this day, I still think, even though there's some things Sparking Zero can do that Raging Blast 2 can, I to this day still think Raging Blast 2 is the better game. The sound effects were more appropriate. The characters getting hit were more appropriate. Characters had more unique moves. Characters could use more supers. For Christ's sakes, in Sparking Zero, it made me so angry that Cell, in like base form and imperfect form, can only use Kamehameha, Special Beam Cannon, Solar Flare, Your Energy's Mine, or whatever. That weird little sand aura that he uses. And what was the other move? Yeah, and the Your Energy is Mine is the ultimate move. He can't even use Sia. You know, the move where he like blasts through Piccolo's stomach. And he can only use Kamehameha and Special Beam Cannon. He can't use all the other moves that he used. Because Raging Blast 2 gave him all of his moves, pretty much, for the most part. He was able to basically use everybody's moves. He was able to use solar flare. He was able to use Gallic gun, Kamehameha, special beam cannon. He was able to use everybody's moves. Why? Because he was made from everybody, so it made the most sense. Cell could use semi-perfect Cell could use Big Bang attack, the Gallic gun, like you could definitely feel there was more of an identity from these characters. It's Cell. He should realistically be able to use every move. They gave him a bunch of moves. He was able to use Death Beam. He was able to do a whole bunch of crap. But we have to be just like Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Remember that nostalgia, Budokai Tenkaichi 3. So you got to take back steps? You couldn't even take from Raging Blast 2 and use what made it better? Like, the only thing I saw from Raging Blast 2 that kind of, and it's pissed me off, Vegeta's double Gallic cannon. Yeah, he uses that, because that was from Raging Blast 2. That wasn't from Budokai Tenkaichi 3. That's a Raging Blast 2 move. So they took some crap from Raging Blast 2 and tossed it in there. Not enough. You can still fight an HFIL in Raging Blast 2. Can't do that in Sparking Zero. You can fight in a cave. Yeah, the cave. You know, the one where Goku fought Turles and Tree of Might. You can fight there. Can't do that in Sparking Zero. They just got lazy. The short answer to this rant is that they got lazy. The short answer is that they got lazy. That if you want the short answer, they got lazy. There's no other way to really sugarcoat it except for they got lazy. And it's a shame too. Because I definitely, in the midst of all this nonsense, I definitely do see the potential. I definitely do see the heart. I just don't see the soul. I see the love. I see the intention. But you're working with you're 2 decades have passed. You can't invent the wheel, then be gone for hundreds of years, come back with a car, come back where like cars are like prevalent now, and then make a car with stone wheels and think it'll work out because it happened in the past. No, we've advanced. Things have gotten better. You got to get with the times. And Sparking Zero was trying too hard to be nostalgic and competitive at the exact same time. You were trying too hard to appeal to both camps, and you couldn't even do it. Now you're just this middle ground game that couldn't accomplish anything. Fighters does a better job being a fighting game. So you lost there. Raging Blast 2 does a better job doing your job for you. It puts more effort into it, at least, when it comes to, like, the details in a Dragon Ball game. What was it? Infinite World was a better head-to-head Dragon Ball fighter. Xenoverse 1 and 2 were better MMOs. And then you got to compete with mobile games too, which you got Legends and Dokkan Battle. So you got all these elements, bro. You're coming from a place of like that long ago. Yeah, this game looks flashy. It definitely has some parts that definitely look flashy, but that's it. You weren't. People talk about the gameplay and there's been this big debate of, oh my god, skill issue. That's got nothing to do with skill issue. Most of the fights, like we as Dragon Ball fans can appreciate the like vanishing battles because it looks like the show. But think about it from a realistic standpoint. Does anybody want to see a fight go like, bro, that's fun for a while. That's fun for like casual, make this look like the anime fights. But is it fun competitively? If you were to pull anybody from EVO, any competitive player from EVO and put them in here and say, do that for an hour, would anybody want to be a part of that? No. Hell no. Do you really? Be honest with me. Do you really, in your heart of hearts, believe that Sparking Zero's gameplay, if put in a competitive scene with a bunch of people that didn't grow up with Budokai Tenkaichi 3, by the way, and you threw it in there and went, is this the best game ever? How would you think it would go down? Just be honest with me for a second. Take your bias aside, because I love it, Dragon Ball. But put your bias aside for a minute. Put your 2007 nostalgia away for a second and really ask yourself this question. Do you think this would be able to hold up with what's happening today? Do you? I don't. I definitely don't. I love Dragon Ball. Love Sparking Zero. Yeah, for as much crap as I've given, I like the game. I like that I have it. I replaced the music with the music that's in Budokai Tenkaichi's 2 and 3 and other games because the music in that game in Sparking Zeros is mediocre and sucks. But I like it. I like the game. I'm glad I have it. I'm glad I own it. I'm still going to probably go out and try to buy a physical copy so I can have it for my standing collection. I like it. And I'm not in love with it. I think Fighters is a better fighting game. I think Xenoverse 2 has more life than this does. Has more living power. I have more of a reason to play Xenoverse 2 than this. And that upsets me. That really upsets me. It bums me out. I definitely am playing Raging Blast 2 more than this. By a long shot. Not even close.